My agenda here has nothing to do with being correct or providing advice, but rather to suss out potential ways of considering various topics and situations. Not here to make friends or inspire enemy combatants, though also not opposed to either. Correct me, criticize me, words still won't hurt me. That said, the zombie apocalypse is happening if you acknowledge how many people can rationalize their way out of a paper bag. Any cures provided happen naturally, and I'm not liable. Carry on, shall we? Howdy, humans. I am going to use this video to discuss the push and pull of my own masculine and feminine. This is a deep subject for me, so I'm not sure if I'm even going to think of all the things I'd like to say about it here and now, but I'm going to do the best I can to piece together my struggles here. So by masculine and feminine, I don't mean male and female, as in obviously I'm a female, I'm a woman, but each person has both qualities, because the masculine and feminine is a series of qualities as opposed to sometimes you feel a sneeze and then it goes away. Hopefully it stays away. Stay away at bay. Maybe not. Oop. The struggle is real. Anyway, I'll just keep going until it happens, if it happens. So the masculine and feminine are more conceptual, is the way I'm using the framework, not to do with gender, which not the conversation I'm having here. What I mean is the characteristics normally attributed to the feminine way of being and the masculine way of being. More metaphor. I'll just illustrate what I'm trying to say. So what I think of, I'll say what I think of masculine and feminine being, right? So if you're using, say, the concepts in the yin and the yang, one side is white, one side is black, then the black side has a little bit of white in it, the white side has a little bit of black in it, showing that there's both qualities are within one another, blah blah blah. The feminine is more receptive, passive, non-aggressive, that type of thing. Masculine being very proactive, aggressive, forward moving, doing. There's more doing in the masculine. And I find, based on my own experience of creating more balance between these two dynamics, which I think everybody really should be doing. I believe living in the middle is often your safest and wisest bet. Yet, the world is more, it seems like the world at large at this point gives more approval to being masculine, right? Because you're ambitious, you're driven, you're trying to be a go-getter and make something of yourself. I think I need to step off camera for a second. And I'm back. So you get, it's as if the whole world is pushing people to get stuff done and be productive, and then you get the rewards. It's a push and pull, a give and take. So the more you give and the more you do, the more you can take. That's what gets you praise and stuff. So in my experience of not really ever being given the space to understand my emotions or how I felt about things well enough to really even delve into that, into the feminine understanding, being passive, really worked against me. I was trying to be driven and ambitious and make something of myself and do, go get it, and you'll get blue ribbons. I don't know. I suppose I bought into a lot of that. And the sacrifice I made was never, running so fast towards something that I didn't, I didn't take enough time to sit with myself and be passive, to be able to digest my experiences in a way that was informative, to know exactly where I wanted to go. But if you ever take a second to relax and calm down and give yourself space, you don't know what you're doing. So you need that balance, right? When I gave myself permission to be more feminine, that was when I finally started to know how I really felt about the world, what was happening to me, and what I was doing. Instead of being driven and motivated to accomplish. And it's more difficult when, and I think this was a large part of the motivation for me to have done that to myself, was being raised in poverty and not, like, no one in my circle, my family, in my background, had put in my opinion, at that time at least, enough work to give me something to build on. I had to build everything for myself. To this day, I'm quite proud, questionable word, very proud that I've done as much as I have. Everything I have is mine. I don't owe anyone anything. Everything I can say I've accomplished has been by my own doing, my own motivation, and for my own, to satisfy my own wants and needs. Because no one was going to do that for me. There was no generous person being supportive of anything I did. So it felt necessary. And, like there wasn't an alternative to me doing that. And I still wouldn't say that I was incorrect in doing what I did. I just feel as though it's important to consider how beneficial it would have been to incorporate some of the feminine qualities as well. I've been considered type A and macho and all these other whatevers, because I've already made a video about it. If you're ambitious and all these other things, that's considered to be masculine. So then there's when you're a woman doing that, you feel some sort of inadequacy by not being feminine enough to suit your role in society, of what's expected of you, that isn't really the problem. It's more that we should be able to access both. You know, men should take time to relax too. They shouldn't always be expected to do until they collapse. And I think that is what is rewarded now. Again, you know, a common theme for me is narcissism. I think because of all the success of all these narcissists, we can continue to believe that it's a thing, that it's real and it's feasible. But the people who are able to completely dismiss any of these, you know, for simplification, feminine qualities, if they have any of that, well, then they're not doing the right thing. And the fact that they aren't, they're not just being weak women, which is what I believe is the characterization of a lot of the feminine qualities. We see there's financial success, which I don't think means shit either. So, look, somebody can do it, right? The people who don't have souls in the first place, right? That's not, I don't measure myself against some completely emotionless, only ambitious human being. That is not my standard. Nope. But I didn't realize how much I had bought into feeling obligated to do this, right? It felt like for the sake of security, of personal security, of being able to financially support myself, I have to just be constantly accomplishing something and doing something. And, you know, if I'm just sitting with my feelings sometimes, or contemplating, because even contemplation can be ambition, depending on what it's about, but not feeling as though I could afford to relax kept me in a high anxiety state, kept motivating that same misguided, not necessarily the most beneficial things to be doing with my time. It just propelled me forward again and again and again. And I was highly stressed. I wasn't able to properly evaluate my trajectory because I was only seeing half of the equation. I wasn't giving enough validity, if you will, to my need to have downtime, my need to have social engagements where I was because I don't want to use the word rewarded, but there's something rewarding about engaging in loving, kind, nurturing relationships and endeavors that you can't say, you can't quantify the benefit, so it's a waste of time. I don't play games. I'm not really a fun person because I think of those things as a waste of time. So I considered nurturing myself and giving myself not denying myself the right to not constantly be doing. I devalued that by being so anxious and masculine. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. But I see it. I'm going to step off camera again for just 1 second. So I've seen this in other people, and especially other women. Yeah, that when I've discussed this with other people, it's the women who I've discussed this with that seem to really understand what I'm saying, and they can relate to it very much. You know, talking about, this is difficult for me, this is difficult for me, I'm working on this about myself. And when I say, yeah, because we're all being taught to be masculine and nothing else, it does get in the way of enjoying your life and having it resemble anything that really means something to you. And it's, the reception I get is, yeah, because people know what I'm talking about. And then, you know, of course, I can say that the women most understand what I'm saying, but I think, if anything, I'm not saying I've had extensive experience of putting this idea out there, but if at all, you know, if I've had this conversation or proposed this to men, they're just as much victims of this mentality, but I don't know that it's as easy for them to identify it as problematic, because that's what men are supposed to do, right? There's all these weird social expectations that make that seem like there's nothing to question there. What do you mean? I'm supposed to be the breadwinner in my family, or all these other just unfair to make. They're unfair expectations based on just what your genitals are. But I think it's easier almost for a woman to realize that they're being masculine because we're criticized for it. It's very, you know, being headstrong it's acceptable for men to do that. But when a woman does it because she's had to be, because we have to, just from my own experience, we're sold that we need to do it too. It's maybe reinforced blah 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 in different ways. But in order for us to not be steamrolled in our work environments and all of that, we're encouraged to behave like men, because that's what's expected of men. I'm not saying that that's what men have to be like, or, you know, I do believe that men and women do have different tendencies. But say, you know, alright, so to put this out there to make sure that I'm being clear about my suggestions. So like the yin and yang, there's a balance. That's balance. It's equally balanced. But if you're born with certain genitals, I would say it might be a split that ends up being a little more 55% of you relates to your genitals. Please don't criticize me. I'm trying to keep this in a sensible framework because I get that this is not applicable to every situation. And whether you're born that way and how you've changed since then, I understand the limitations of my examples. But so 55-45, that's a balance. That's a pretty good balance while still maintaining maybe what could be possibly you have a little bit more of what your natural inclination may be. So maybe you're a little balanced toward one way or the other. And I'm not even saying it couldn't be the opposite way, but I just think like a 55-45 split seems reasonable regardless of how you're applying it. I don't expect everybody to be 50-50. I don't know if that's my point is to say that I don't know that that's a rational expectation. But somewhere close to 50-50 seems reasonable, and I don't see it happening. Like toxic masculinity is terrifying. The things that happen because of those types of attitudes, but that is often born out of somebody feeling like they have to meet that expectation of them, and so they overdo it to a harmful degree. And my point being, it's not just socially harmful, it's personally harmful. And then when I made I acknowledged how out of whack I was and gave myself more time to chill out and take in the world as opposed to just keep going at it, I felt a lot better. Felt a lot better, felt a lot more comfortable, a lot less anxious, and somewhat resentful, I guess, of everyone praising these overly masculine ways of behaving and not rewarding people for being naturally expressing any femininity, right? Like motherly nature. Is it really fair to children to tell them when they should and shouldn't cry, or that mommy will give you hugs and kisses but daddy can't do that because he's a man? When we're using it, applying these principles in that way, that's not good for anybody. We're missing out on feeling like complete, if you will. I don't know if that's real either, but feeling more at ease with just not being obligated to one or the other, and acknowledging where we could become a little more of one or the other. Because I don't think it's a good idea to be completely feminine either. If you're just passive and receptive all the time, you're not doing things for yourself either, right? Both need the balance of the other, if I haven't made that point clear. And I've struggled with some of this too because of the bias against a woman having these masculine qualities. And I feel sometimes like that may have been some of what has motivated me to try to appear feminine, because I've been treated as if I'm too masculine in my demeanor. So in order for me to balance that, I have to look like I'm a lady, right? There's just a lot of wacky, unfair expectations, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know if I've made all the points I'd like to make. I obviously meandered as I do. But I think my biggest points have been hit on here. Please excuse me again for a second. I've had a runny nose today. I don't know what the deal is. It's like out of nowhere. I don't know if it's an allergy to some, whatever, it doesn't matter. So if you guys want to comment and hash some of this out in the comment section, that'd be great. But as with any of the things, I guess a lot of the points I like to make also includes the idea of don't project that onto other people either. Please. When we're reinforcing negative stereotypes that aren't benefiting people and are preventing them from having a balanced life, a balanced existence, a lower anxiety state of being, we're not helping anyone. So I'm not the first, I won't be the last to suggest that fathers shouldn't tell their sons to not cry. I've seen how horrible that can be. But just be maybe conscious. I'd like to have stimulated second guessing of how you're behaving and how you could find greater balance through even thinking about this, and being conscious of not perpetuating unfair and unjustifiable stereotypes on other people. It doesn't make any sense. It's not helping anyone. Everybody's just trying to figure out what the heck they're doing at any given time. So just hindering people from being able to do that fairly for themselves by using irrational frameworks isn't conducive to a better world. So, my overly makeup face and my pinks and such are going to say toodaloo for now. Till next time.